Magnolia, Texas, a quaint town draped in sunshine and southern charm. It was here that Angie Diaz, a bright and bubbly 21-year-old, began her new life with Jared James Dicus, her husband of just a few months. Outwardly, they were a picture of young love. Behind closed doors, however, a darkness was brewing. Whispers of arguments, hushed tones overheard by neighbors, hinted at a relationship on the brink. Angie, known for her infectious laughter and zest for life, seemed to withdraw. Her once vibrant spirit flickered under a veil of unease. Friends noticed. Family noticed. Their fairy tale romance, it seemed, was turning into a nightmare. Was it the pressure of a new marriage? Or was something more sinister at play? The seeds of doubt were sown, but no one could have predicted the horror that was to come. Looking back, the warning signs were there. Friends recall instances of Jared's possessive behavior, his controlling nature rearing its ugly head. A darkness lingered beneath his calm exterior, a simmering rage that few witnessed firsthand. Angie, ever the optimist, brushed off their concerns. He was just passionate, she'd argue, deeply in love, but love shouldn't hurt. And as the weeks turned into months, the red flags became impossible to ignore. Arguments escalated, becoming more frequent, more intense. Neighbors reported hearing shouting matches, objects being thrown, the sounds of a relationship imploding. Still, no one could have foreseen the gruesome end to Angie and Jared's tumultuous story. A storm was gathering, and young Angie was caught in its path. January 11th, 2023. A day forever etched in the annals of Magnolia's history. A day that began like any other, but ended in unimaginable horror. The call came in just after noon, a frantic plea for help from Jared Dicus himself. His words, jumbled and incoherent, sent chills down the spines of the seasoned dispatchers. Something was terribly wrong. When deputies arrived at the couple's modest home on Oak Hollow Drive, they were met with a scene straight out of a nightmare. The air hung heavy, thick with the metallic scent of blood. And there, in the heart of the house, lay Angie Diaz, her lifeless body a testament to the brutal violence she had endured. The idyllic facade of the young couple's life had shattered, revealing a horrifying truth. The details as they emerged were nothing short of chilling. Angie had been stabbed, repeatedly, with a ferocity that spoke volumes about the rage that consumed her killer. But it was the discovery in the bathroom that truly sent shockwaves through the community. There, amidst the scattered toiletries and damp towels, lay Angie's severed head, a gruesome testament to the depths of depravity the killer had sunk to. The murder weapon, a kitchen knife, lay discarded nearby, still stained with Angie's blood. The house, once a sanctuary for a young couple starting their lives together, was now a macabre crime scene, a silent witness to an act of unspeakable cruelty. As investigators meticulously combed through the scene, piecing together the events that led to Angie's demise, one question echoed through the minds of everyone involved. What could drive a man to commit such a heinous act against his own wife? Section 5. The Confession. Jared James Dicus, his clothes stained with blood, offered no resistance as he was taken into custody. His demeanor, detached and emotionless, sent chills down the spines of the hardened officers. It was during his interrogation, in a cold, sterile room at the Waller County Sheriff's Office, that the truth began to unravel. At first, he denied everything. He hadn't been home, he claimed, hadn't seen Angie all day, but his alibi crumbled under the weight of the evidence. Confronted with the gruesome details, the undeniable proof of his crime, Jared's facade cracked. And then, he confessed. His words, delivered with a chilling calmness, painted a horrifying picture of that fateful night, a night that began with an argument and ended in bloodshed. Section 6. A community in shock. News of Angie's murder spread like wildfire through the quiet town of Magnolia. Disbelief gave way to horror, then to a collective grief that hung heavy in the air. Angie Diaz, with her infectious laugh and kind heart, had been stolen from them, her light extinguished by an act of senseless violence. Candlelight vigils were held, her favorite songs filling the air as tears flowed freely. Friends shared stories, remembering her warmth, her generosity, her unwavering optimism. The community, united in grief, struggled to come to terms with the darkness that had visited their doorstep. How could this happen here, in their peaceful town? It was a question that lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. Section 7. The weight of evidence. The evidence against Jared Dicus was overwhelming. His confession, chilling in its detail, was corroborated by the gruesome findings at the crime scene. DNA evidence linked him directly to the murder weapon, while security camera footage placed him at the couple's home at the time of Angie's death. Prosecutors, their case airtight, painted a picture of a calculated and brutal crime, driven by a jealous rage that culminated in a fit of unimaginable violence. Jared Dicus, they argued, had not only taken Angie's life but had stolen her future, leaving her family and friends to grapple with the devastating consequences of his actions. The trial, when it finally arrived, would be a formality, a chance for justice to be served, albeit a hollow victory for those who loved Angie most. The trial of Jared James Dicus began a year after Angie's murder, the courtroom packed with family, friends, and members of the community, all seeking justice for the young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Emotions ran high as prosecutors laid out their case, detailing the brutality of the crime and the overwhelming evidence against the defendant. Angie's family, their grief still raw, delivered heart-wrenching victim impact statements, painting a vivid picture of the void left by her absence. They spoke of her infectious laugh, her kind heart, her dreams for the future, all extinguished by a single act of violence. The jury, tasked with delivering a verdict, listened intently, their faces etched with a mix of sadness and revulsion as the details of Angie's murder unfolded. Throughout the trial, Jared Dicus remained impassive. His gaze fixed, his demeanor cold and detached. His defense team, faced with a mountain of evidence, opted for a strategy of mitigation, attempting to portray their client as a troubled young man driven to a moment of madness. They pointed to his lack of prior criminal history, his quiet demeanor suggesting that the crime was an aberration, a tragic outburst that was out of character. But their arguments rang hollow in the face of the overwhelming evidence and the chilling details of Angie's murder. The jury, tasked with separating fact from fiction, deliberated for less than 3 hours. Their verdict, when it came, was swift and decisive. Guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom, heavy with finality. Jared James Dicus, the man who had so brutally taken the life of Angie Diaz, was found guilty of murder. The sentence handed down by the judge was equally swift: 40 years in prison, a sentence that would ensure he would spend the prime of his life behind bars, haunted by the consequences of his actions. For Angie's family, the verdict brought a sense of closure, a small measure of justice for the loss they had endured. But it would not bring Angie back. Her laughter would no longer fill their home, her dreams forever unrealized. As Jared Dicus was led away, his face still devoid of emotion, one question lingered. What drove him to commit such a horrific act? It was a question that would likely haunt him, and those who loved Angie, for years to come. The trial may be over, the verdict delivered, but the case of Jared James Dicus and Angie Diaz continues to resonate. It serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence, a silent epidemic that claims far too many lives. Angie's story, though tragic, is not unique. It is a story repeated far too often, in homes across the country, behind closed doors where love has turned to violence, where fear silences the cries for help. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your reflections in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going, raising awareness about domestic violence and honoring the memory of those lost to this silent epidemic.